just to recap, this is part 2 of the bookshelf generator. The idea is to use USD inside of NVIDIA Omniverse to create this procedural modeling extension that will create the kind of like this IKEA bookshelf, a very simple wooden bookshelf, and then also array the books on those shelves. And then we can take that even further depending on where we want to go with it. But that's the basic idea. The last part was a little rough. I ran into some issues with using the XForm Common API, which I've let the team know that's a bit incompatible with the way that we model our data in Omniverse. Just to recap what happened, I got stuck on this for a good while, and XForm Common API is a really great way to set the scale, translation, rotation of your prims, and it's a simple API that does a lot of things for you. But what I ran into is the first thing I tried to do is I tried to set scale, and the XForm Common API expects a float value for scale, and in Omniverse we model scale as a double. So the API ended up being incompatible with the prims that I was trying to manipulate. So I'm going to leave that aside for now. I'll just use the get attribute and set the values kind of the old-fashioned way. That's gonna work out fine. And yeah, so we'll pick up where we left off. Mostly what happened last week is I went through some of the commands in Omniverse, grabbed how to create a mesh, or we're creating cubes to represent the sides of the bookshelf. Got the command for creating a material. This is using a cherry material here that we have in the material library, and binding the material to the cube. So this is all pretty hard coded, but we'll tweak that to allow for multiple cubes, so we can do all the sides of the bookshelf. And then I fiddled around for a good while with whether I wanted to scale the cubes and apply scale transformations on this, and then I ended up deciding no, I should manipulate the points property here and actually just change the vertices of the default cubes to set the size that I want for these panels. So right now it's kind of in the middle of, I'm using some scale, some centimeter sizes, so I need to clean that up. All right, so enough recap. Let's do this. So let's go ahead and finish up with getting at least some sort of idea of how these units are going to work. I have my book A for reference, just to make sure I'm in the right scale, just at a glance. And I'm not using this XForm API anymore. So if I save here, should automatically update, and if I click, now I've got the panel. So I had a scale on top of the already correctly sized panel, so that's why it was tiny. But this should be more to scale now for what I want to do. And this is taking 150 centimeters for the width, 20 for the depth, and 2 centimeters for the thickness. And and then I copied over a template of the points, basically just getting the right points in the right indices, and then I unit sized it. So if I create a new cube here, it comes in at a meter, a meter cubed. So I just took these values, changed them to 1 so that I have a nice template for then easily multiplying by the input with height and depth that I get. So we're going to use that. And feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I'm happy to answer them as they come in, and as long as they're relevant to the work that I'm doing. The other thing that I can do is it's getting kind of old to delete these as I iterate. So if I come over here and I delete that one and I delete that one, in my commands I should have now delete and then the paths that I'm deleting. So I can go ahead and use that command at the beginning. Let's take that one. And then it wants a list of paths, so here we go. And we're going to delete world looks and world cube. Cool. So this needs to be delete prims. Let's see how that goes. It might throw an error if I don't have anything in there, so we'll find out. Yeah, I'm okay with that error for now. Cool. So that now I can just click and refresh and regenerate every time. So that's nice. This is all good. So I'm going to move these into here. Width will be 150 by default. Height, we're not there, but I don't know. The width is probably too much. 2 meters. This one should probably be, yeah, that's fine. And then the depth will be 20. Thickness will be 2. And I'm doing this all in centimeters. Maybe I'll change it into meters at some point. Cool. So those all depth, thickness, and we don't need that one anymore. All right. And now we have our first board. I'm happy with it. And we should try to do the sides. And this is just going to be one long spaghetti code, potentially, until I decide how I want to do this. Or I can do the texture scaling. Maybe that's a better idea right now. Not that one. Actually, that was the right one. that should be this one. Yeah. I think, how did I calculate this last time? I should have saved that math. It's a ratio of the width and the depth. So if the width is 150, yeah, so I'm going to pull that out in a moment. And after this, I'll generate actual names for these. I'll stop hard coding that. And texture scale y is equal to 20 divided by 150, or depth divided by width. And then I can do stage dot get prim at path, because right now I just have a path, to get the material. This is going to give me the material I need to get the shader. So let's make this an SDF path. These single quotes bother me. And then I need to cast this to a string before I pass it into there. But then afterwards, the reason that I did SDF path is then I can just append path and add the shader name to that. So that should give me now the shader prim. And what did I call this? I do have a stage, self underscore stage. Cool. Now with that prim, I can get the attribute, which is inputs texture scale. So shader prim dot get attribute inputs texture scale. And I'm going to store that because I need to get the X and Y values. So get that attribute. Then I can I wonder if I can just unpack this here. Texture scale attribute get let's see what that does. I forgot to import SDF. And I got a type error, can't unpack non-type object. And this is probably going to be because the attribute hasn't been created yet. which is fine. So these attributes are lazy loaded. They get loaded when you actually click on the attribute on the prim. So I can select the prim and get it. I know that I'm going to do 1 for X and some value for Y. So I guess just to save myself the hassle, I don't need to actually get it. I'll just create it and then set the values. So once I have that, we can go to this is going to be 1.0, and this is going to be a tuple or a list. Cool. So now we have an error. Invalid syntax, we're here. All right. These headphones are getting in the way. Give me a sec. Okay. Here we go. So I fixed that error. Run that one more time. Got another error. Create attribute. I need to give it a type. The type for that was float 2. So where was I? Create the attribute right here. I need to give it a type. So SDF dot value type names and float 2. Cool. There we go. That's going somewhere. This texture sometimes takes a second to load. So what did that do? If I go to the shader, did it do the right thing? Scale, yes it did. And there it is. That looks like wood to me. Very nice. That's what we had before. That's what we have now. Cool. So that's the logic for the texture scaling. That's great. And we need to do this at least 4 more times, right? So this will definitely become its own function, and then we tell it if it's horizontal or vertical or something, and move those into position. So that's the goal. All right. If you're just joining in, feel free to drop any questions in the chat. We're building a bookshelf generator. Right now I'm laying out the shelves, or the wood panels that are going to make up the shelf. This is all using this is all in NVIDIA Omniverse, using Python and USD. And yeah, we're gonna have some fun. Cool. So those are set. Texture scale is set. I guess let's break this out into a function. Create panel. What do you call these things? Board. Board is probably a better name. Create a board. And we're going to take all of that, bring it into here. We don't need any of that anymore. We're not going to use any of that either. We should save these. Self width is equal to and these might need to change. They're kind of ambiguous as far as what width, height, and depth mean, but we'll see. Okay. And then I'm just thinking a little bit about how I'm structuring these prims in here. So the idea would be that when after I've generated, I hopefully just have everything set up so that I can save this as an asset and then reference it somewhere else. So I have the right structure, I think. That I'll have, maybe I should create a geometry scope to keep all my geometry in. So I'd put the cube in there, put the books in there as well eventually. This would be called geometry. And then the looks, I'm a little bothered that this isn't a scope, but I can fix that later. And then in here, I'm gonna have a material per I'm gonna have a material per mesh, per cube, because I need to set the texture scale for each. Maybe I can do some instancing, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Yeah. Otherwise, I could separate this into a separate USD and reference it in, and then just override the texture scale for each. Yeah, it's not much of a win. So I'll just create a bunch of these. It's not that many anyways. And yeah, it should do it. A smarter thing would be to manipulate the UVs, which I may end up doing in the end, but this will be quicker, right? Because right now I'm changing the texture scale. I'm already changing the points on these cubes. I might as well just scale the UVs accordingly as well, so that I'm not changing the texture scale on the material. I just use one material, and all the UVs are correctly set for that, but not important right now. Cool. So let's do that. I could use a command for this, but also the vanilla USD is easy enough. But let's just go ahead and use the command. Select that command. Grab that. I don't have any attributes on this. All right, it's going to create a scope. It's going to return, and the first parameter, I believe, is the scope path. And let's debug that just to be sure. Over here, debug, run it, skip over, it returned true. Ah, right, this one doesn't return. So create mesh prim returns returns the path, but create prim with default export does not. So let me write down that note, because I want all of these to return paths in the future. And I wonder if I would have any better luck with this one. Continue. I shouldn't get the first one yet. All right, let's run that. Oops, sorry. Go. Yeah, this one only returns true as well, so I'll create prim. All right, so these particular commands, instead of returning the path, they select the path for you, or the prim for you, and then you could do get selection and then get the, based off of your current selection, then you'd be able to identify the path of the prim you just created. The reason that I care about this is if I create another prim with the same name, it'll create an enumerated one. See, so that one just got created. I already had a scope, so it named it scope_1 and hello, funky boy. You found me. So it gives it a different name, and then I don't know necessarily where it put it, what it named it. I mean, it's an extra step that I need to do, and most of the time I don't want to bother with selection, so I want to let the dev team know and see if we can have these work all the same and hopefully avoid selection, in my opinion. But we'll see what they think. So for now, what I will do is there is in OmniUSD a get next free path. I showed this at our developer office hours before this past week, and basically you give it a path for where you want to create a prim, and then it'll go and check if that's available, and if not, it'll add the underscore whatever number for you and give you that new path. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm pretty sure that this one allows me to give it a path where I want to create a prim type, prim path. So we can get rid of this debug, and we're going to take off that breakpoint. Prim type, prim path. And here we're going to feed it that self.geom_scope path. All right, so that should be a little cleaner here. Now every time I run it, which in this case it's not as critical because I'm only going to have one scope in here. But if I run it and I break here, break there, then click path and prepend default prim path. So that other one is a required. I thought it was a keyword argument, so I just want to say false here. I don't need to prepend the default prim which is world, because I'm already doing it. So skip that. All right. Missing one, but I have that one. So, oh, it wants a stage. First argument is stage, then the path, then the prepend default path. Self._stage. Okay. So run it the first time, and scope is scope. Hello, Gavin. Will you optimize stretched UVs through code? Is it hard? It is not hard. It's just not something that I want to spend time doing right now. It's not hard. It comes down to what I'm doing here. Here I'm getting the points attribute, and then I'm giving it a new array of points, which I figured out by just generating a template for the cube. This is a unit-sized cube, and then I'm multiplying it by the width, height, depth, and thickness that I want for the cube. Let me continue here. So if we look at this cube here, UVs are exactly are similar. There's a primvars st, which also has an array of UVs, and I can do the same thing as I can have take that and then scale the in this case the y values, so that I can do the same effect of what I did with the texture scale, but do it directly on the UVs. So if that's of interest, maybe we can spend some time on that. But I figured, I have something that's working visually, and then I can always change that later. That won't change my structure too much. Cool. All right. All right, so I created that scope. I just wanted to show this get next stage next free path one more time. So if I run it again, we look at this value now. This member variable has the correct name for the next one that I'm creating. If I click play now, it'll create that next one, and I have a handle to that path so that I can keep working with it. So we're good with debugging for now. So now I can delete the scope instead. Wait, and I named it scope. It should have been geometry. And then this one will be it's plural, right? Looks, yeah. Cool. And I might as well just create that one too, even though the material command creates it, because I'm bothered that it uses a transform instead of a scope. I'm gonna go ahead and force it, create it first, so that I get a scope. And then we can delete these. Yeah, this is just gonna be hard-coded. That's fine. All right, so if I did that correctly, there we go. Looks and geometry. And now we'll just make sure that this is all still happy. We have these variables that no longer exist. So let's add self to these. Cool. Save. And that one didn't go into the right spot, so we'll take a look at that. But you can see now that the material was created under this looks prim, and because it was already there in a scope, then it didn't have to do anything to create it. So I'm happy, the code is happy, and let's see what happened with the cube. The cube, I didn't update that yet. This is by default going to create it under the world prim. So let's go ahead and get the next, do the same business here. We get the next. I don't know if I'm gonna store all of these prims, all these prim paths for every component. I don't think I need to, so I'm just gonna create a variable there. Add prim path to here, and this one should be, and now because I have that scope now, the geometry scope, I can say I need to do, these need to be SDF paths, so I can do the append and not mess things up. All right, and then pretty sure this will complain if it's not a string. That would be another improvement here is commands should accept SDF paths. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. I'm also, taking notes as I'm doing this for our development team to, thinking about improvements that we can make here for the API so that it's easier to work with. So we should test this, right? Let's see if it complains about the SDF path before I go complaining about it to our devs. But type error, there it is. Incompatible function arguments. It wanted a string. You could also use a, this is failing somewhere internally, it looks like. So yeah, if I put that back into a string, then everything's happy. So worthwhile improvement, I think. And now here I can do append path, append path, cube. Still didn't work. What happened? World geometry does not exist. Interesting. And this may be a race condition here because of the async part of this. Let's check it one more time. So those are good. But once I get down to here, then I get the okay. So we could await this add some next frame. Make this all asynchronous and await these things. Let's try that. I gotta import async IO. Ultimately, though, I may just fall back to vanilla USD if these commands are giving me trouble. Okay, so that's asynchronous now, so I should be able to say await OmniKit app get app. And next update, I think that's the function. I'll look it up if this fails. And then this needs to be async IO enter future. Yeah, I got that wrong. So let me pull up the docs. So in here, the kit documentation, you can get to this by going to, should show this. Go in here, docs.omniverse.nvidia.com, developer documentation. And in the bundled extensions, there is, nope, it's going to be in the core, I think. Core API reference. There is OmniKit app. And I thought I need to do get app. Yeah, you do get app. And then you do next update async. Okay, so I was just off by one letter. Okay, save, run it. Hey, we still got the same error, I think. The cube didn't go into the right place. Let's clear that. What is it? So I'm still getting the error. Yeah. Some questions. I have to go soon, but would like to see you cover. Cool. So the quick question is, what is the difference between Omniverse Kit and Omniverse Code? Omniverse Kit is the framework that all of our Omniverse apps are built off of. It's the application dev kit. And Code is just one of the applications that NVIDIA builds using Kit. Create, View, Machinima, all of those are Kit applications. Code, we are recommending as a really great way to develop your Kit extensions and mostly Kit extension development because it has built-in documentation. It has like the VS Code link extension enabled already. It has a commands window enabled. So that's why we use Code. And as far as Funky Boy, you're asking about Funky Boy, you're asking about how do we... You want me to cover how to use the book. How much time do we have? Well, we have time. We could switch over to the point instancer. Should we do that? What do y'all think? I can keep going down this path and sort out the async issue, or we can talk about point instancer really quick, at least as a primer, and then I can sort out the, finish that on another one. When you spawn a USD, it asks for a local path. Oh, right. Okay, so you're asking about, yeah. So something that came up on Discord, I think it was Funky Boy that brought it up, is in my project, I said, where am I? I put in the data directory of my extension the book A USD, and this is a template or like a sample book that somebody could use to test out my tool, right? And then maybe I let them add in their own assets if they want to use their own books. But Funky Boy was very observant, and I did handle this. Where is it? Generator. I did show. No, I got rid of the print, but I am handling this here where the file path to the book is this, right? And I can rerun this. And bookUSD is this window path to where my extension is, and where can I get a, I don't want to follow the link. I guess you can't scroll in this window. Weird. But yeah, it's got the full path to where that USD file is. And this is fine, but then you think, if I reference this into this project, this is now going to have a absolute path to where the extension lives on my computer, and so it'll work. It'll seemingly work. But if I wanted to share this extension with, or if I wanted to share this project afterwards, or this asset with somebody, then they would get it. They would have a reference, and the reference would break. That file path to where I have the extension installed would not work for them. Even if they had the extension installed, theirs would be installed somewhere else, and it wouldn't work. And so we need to solve that. What I'm thinking right now is we have this source file, and we copy it to right next to wherever the stage is saved, or we ask the user where they want to save these assets, but put them once we start to use them, put them somewhere where the user will remember where they are, or have easier access to it. So that's my current line of thinking is you can just do Python copy file commands in order to move these into a location that the user would prefer, and then we can reference that one once it's in a better location. Yeah, if it were next to the stage, then you could do a relative path from this layer, from the root layer. So that might be a little bit more. That would be preferable, right? Then as long as I just copy the files together, they work. Otherwise, I may still have issues with absolute paths if I don't do that. If the user gives me some location. So so yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. I'd rather not sidetrack too much on that, but I'll definitely get to that in one of these videos. There was another question about if I know anything about data science, and I do not, unfortunately. That's something that I am interested in learning more about, but no, I don't do any data science. All right, so let's keep going. This is hanging now. I don't know why I clicked on the. Oh, it's because I'm still debugging. I broke right there. Cool. Gavin was saying something about world looks cube ? I'm not sure what that means, but I do think I got the path right. It's trying to create the path at geom, scope, and cube. So I'm pretty sure it's just a sync issue. Which is a little frustrating. Gotta get rid of that breakpoint. So this time the material went in correctly. Or was it always going in correctly? Oh, I'm a fool. That output is from this delete prims that I was trying to do. Okay, so what did I mess up? This is my mistake, not anything else. Let's check out where. And I wonder if it's that. All right, let's try this. We have a breakpoint. We're gonna go. And cube prim path is currently equal to world geometry cube, which is correct. So my suspicion is that maybe this command, create mesh prim with default xform, doesn't accept a path, or maybe the keyword argument is different. Prim path. Oh, yeah. This needs to be, no, that's the string now. This is just a string. Unless it's any assignment, unless it's this assignment that's causing pulling it out, but that doesn't seem likely. Let's just get rid of all that to see what's going on with this mesh creation command. Prim path, select new prim, yeah, so I'm sure I'm good there. And let me know if you spot anything that I might have missed. I'm going to clear this just to see what new errors we get. And if I get rid of this, I'm sure I won't have those other errors anymore. Yeah, no errors. It just doesn't want to put it. Doesn't want to put it there. And if I give it some funky boy, yeah, funky boy. Maybe I'll help you on Discord afterwards, for sure. Not maybe. Yeah, we should connect either today or another day this week. All right. All right, something funky is definitely happening. It's not taking the print path. In the scopes. So that's cool. Let me try one of these other commands. Just as a sanity check. Otherwise, I'm not going to deal with this right now. I'm just going to move it after creating. Save that. Yeah, doesn't want to name it. Get rid of this async business here. Okay. Okay, well, I'll follow up on that. For now, I know where I want to put it, and I know that it's going to create it in world cube. So I will use a move command to put it into geometry. And select that. Paste that there. Put that back as it was. And now I'm going to move this one over to here. And let's see how that goes for us. There we go. Wonderful. There's always a way if we just persevere. All right. I just realized I'm still on VPN and I'm out. All right, sorry about that. If you got a brief disconnect, I jumped off of a VPN and it disconnected and then reconnected. There was the stream quality was suffering, I think, so I wanted to fix that. Say hello if you're still there. All right. Cool. So we move the prim, and we don't need this business anymore. And we can bring all this back in. We're using this now for the cube path, so we don't need this anymore. And this is a little fragile, I'm realizing. You know, if there is a world cube already, then I'm gonna have issues, but we'll deal with that later. So then we create the material. I'm gonna create a new material path again. So let's do that. Same idea. We get the next free path. And this time we're going to use the looks scope. And we're going to call this one cherry. And this is going to be material path. That's going to go here. And we might as well already wrap this one here with an SDF path. And maybe I'm the only one that really likes to use SDF path, but I just like to use it to build paths, because just to try to avoid human error and adding forward slashes and all that. It is a little inconvenient right now having to cast it to strings in certain situations, but at least I get an error for that, right? If a particular command or function doesn't know how to deal with the SDF path. Cool, that one looks good. And then we can, the rest of this should work. This one should be that. And let's see what happens. I have my delete command back in, so there we go. I don't know what happened to my book ref. I must have not been paying attention. I got rid of my book reference. So let's drag that back in. There we go. Cool. So now theoretically, I should be able to do this a bunch of times and it should work now. Yeah. Cool. Cube 3, cube 2, cube 1. So, and then we should have all our materials there, and they all have, I mean, they're all the same size currently, so we can't tell if the texture scale is totally working for all of them, but we're good there. So, can we create a new X form? Yeah, we can. Meshes inherently will have their a transform. They're transformable. And I can tell by the transform section here. But you can also create, if you just wanted an extra transform to build some sort of hierarchy, you can build a transform type X form, and that will also come with the transform attributes if that's what you're looking for. This is similar to like an empty in Blender, a group in Maya. Good question. Okay, so we have all the boards there. Theoretically, if I kind of plan this out a little bit, this is I should have this thing return to me the cube prim. Yes. Okay, so theoretically, if I grab that, so board dot get attribute xform op translate. I didn't just make this up. If you hover over any attribute, you can get the name of the attribute that you pass to get attribute to get it. So so that's where I'm getting that from, and then I can set that to an array, a list height, and this will need a little bit of tweaking because I need to account for board thickness and all that, but just to be able to visualize this a little bit. Then I need to rotate in Z. So, and translate in X. Negative width. And positive width. So just to help understand this, this is the top, this is the bottom, left, and right. And then this one needs to be rotated. And this is a rotate X, Y, Z. That's the default that we use, the default rotation order that we use for our prims in Omniverse. And here I need to rotate this one 90. And same with this one. Cool. So, whoops, am I still? No. What happened here? Oh, we got an error. Exception. Type mismatch. Vector 3D. On which one? It wants, there it is, translate. Okay, so GF vec 3D. I'm not entirely sure which ones of these get translated automatically from list to the right data type, but I can definitely just give it the exact type that it wants for that attribute. I think that's what I might have done with the scale the other day. Go. Is this one going to be complaining about it? Oh, well, it's going to complain about all of them, isn't it? Take that, paste it in there. Take this, paste it in there, and then we might find that it's going to complain about the rotation too. I'm pretty sure it will, but hey, look at that board, it's floating. Yeah, so it's going to complain about the rotation. No problem, we can fix that. And this is supposed to be like half height for the Y value. And same business here. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Is I was trying to pass in just arrays which USD will often let you, and it'll translate them to the appropriate data type. In this case, I didn't do what I expected, so better to just be safe and give it the exact value that's the exact data type that it wants. All right, well, that's closer. What did I need to divide? I need to also subtract half the board width, right? So which side am I looking at this from? No, that's for height. This should be half of the width. And I could move the pivots on these to make the math nicer, but I don't think there's going to be a pivot that's going to be great for all of them. So center is fine for this. So the side ones look good. What am I missing on the height one? Oh, the height one, it's just that these need to be longer. Right? And right now I'm using the same width. This one's supposed to be actually using the height variable. So I do need to adjust my create board so that I get that. And then the other thing that I'm going to want is probably num shelves. And we'll sort out that math later. But yeah, basically I'll just put in, subdivide the space and add a shelf at every, accordingly. So how can we adjust this function so that the width and the height of the board is what I want? I guess I just need to do width and height and thickness. The reason that I'm doing thickness is because I also want to do a board on the back. Rough this in here, but I want to do a board on the back. Something like that. And then typically, if true IKEA furniture style, this would be like paper thin. So maybe I'll do that. I'm not sure. I'm looking at this now, and I don't like the look of it all. Look of it at all. But maybe with the right texture scale, it'll be okay. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll cross that bridge once we get there. So for now, width, height, and thickness. So when I create this board, the bottom board is going to use Oh wait, I don't need thickness, maybe. Just, and depth is always the same, potentially. So this is going to be, for the width of the bottom board, it's the same as self.width. And height is equal to self.thickness, right? So width, and height is thickness. So then for the next board, although, no, I guess they all have the same thickness. Print path and name increment automatically. If you use the kit commands, they do. The kit commands internally actually use this function to automatically increment them. But in my case, I like to have more control. So I'm naming these myself and then passing the right name to them, except for this one where we ran into that weird bug. But for the most part, yeah. Kit commands will do it. Sometimes I'll switch up and I'll use kit commands sometimes, and then sometimes I'll use the vanilla USD API, in which case it's really nice to remember and be familiar with this command, with this function, so that you can generate new print paths. Cool, good question. All right, so I got to think through this a little bit here. So technically width is thickness is always the same. Width is always the same. So all I need to do is here I feed in width. Here I feed in width as well. Here I feed in height, and here I feed in height. I have a hard time typing with the microphone over my keyboard for these streams. So now wherever we find width, we just need to replace it with the parameter that I'm passing through. So we save that and we run it. And that's looking closer. The last bit is to account for the thickness of the board. And I want the sides to go out half the thickness. And I want the top and the bottom to be half a thickness up, so that it's sitting right on the floor. So we come over here. Translate minus self.thickness divided by 2. And this one's going to be plus half thickness. And then this one's going to subtract half thickness. And this one's going to add half thickness. So save that. The hot reloading is taking just a little bit longer than what I'd like today. And that didn't quite work, did it? That looks good. I didn't do it to the bottom. The bottom needs to move. So what did I do here? I put this on the wrong one. There we go. And this just needs to go up half thickness. All right, one more time. Okay, top looks good, bottom looks good. Cool, we got our frame. And the texture scale looks good on the sides and the top. And hopefully, if I do this right, we'll be able to hook this up to a slider for width and height, and be able to do the sort of geometry nodes dynamic sizing just for visual pleasure. But for now, we'll stick with this. And you know, just to enjoy the fruits of our labor, let's do something like a short and long bookshelf. Cool. So yeah, if you're just joining us, we're making a bookshelf generator, and I'll be working on this every Tuesday, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern, and I think 2 hours is the right length for this now. The first one that we did, it was just an hour. I felt like I didn't get anything done, especially when I ran into an issue. So yeah, that's what we got the frame going. Let's try adding the bookshelves now. So this can go into, this will probably be its own separate function as well. But for now, for shelf in num shelves. This is always the hard part of building these things, is that making the executive decision of, is the bottom a shelf or not? Like I put books there. So is it a shelf or no? Or is it just the ones that float up top that you'd count as shelves? For now, I'm saying that's not a shelf. Hopefully that's the right choice. I think it makes sense, just because that's part of the frame. I think that'll keep me sane. For shelf in shelves, we need to and maybe we enumerate. Wait, this is just this is an index, or this is an int. So I can just do range here, and so that's an index. So we just need to do this again. And for the height, the position of the vertical position, it's something like self.height divided by let's call this offset, or offset is something like let's do that. Height divided by num shelves, and yeah. So then with that offset, I can do, let's make that num plus 1 times offset plus. That's a mess, but something like that. Let's just see what happens. This is what I like about working with Python, and especially with the hot reloading here. Whoops, division is there, zero division error. Yeah, because this is 0. So I'll if num shelves is greater than 0. Do that. Okay, that's the old error. I said 2 shelves. We got one at the top. That's not what we want. And mostly what I need to do is divide by if I say I want 2 shelves, then the offset needs to be num shelves plus 1. And yeah, I think that's going to be the one. Nope, what did I do wrong there? Oh, I need to put parentheses around this. There we go. Yeah, that's looking better. Pretty nice. I'd put a book on that. All right. We should enjoy this a little bit more, right? Let's go back to the tall bookshelf, and not that wide. And I don't know, let's do like 5. My books probably won't fit on that, but let's see what happens. Hey, that's actually pretty good. Cool, so we have our 4 frames and then the 5 shelves. All right. That's pretty satisfying to see. So I wonder if I should try to wire this up to a slider and see what kind of performance we get. Or see, the thing is that once I've created it, I should probably just update the points and positions. Yeah, we might need to make some adjustments to get that real time feedback. We'll see, but this helps to just be able to see this come together. Can I make this math? Can I simplify this math to make it a little bit easier to understand? So this makes sense, is that the subdivisions, it needs to be 1 more than the number of shelves that I want to put in there. And then plus 1 times offset. And this is plus 1 because I'm skipping the 0th. So probably what would be nicer is if I did range to num shelves, then I can get rid of that. And hopefully I did that right. Nope, I missed one. So when you add the starting, then you need to add one to the end. I don't remember the start stop. So I want to start on one and then stop on num shelves plus one. Exclusive, yeah. So the stop is exclusive. That's what always throws me off. Start is inclusive, stop is exclusive, so I need to do plus one there. So I don't know if this is any more clear. It always throws me off than what I had before, but this should get back to the original functionality. It looks like the slowness in the hot reload is when I'm switching windows, not the hot reload itself. All right, cool. So now we can throw this into a couple of functions. Create frame. And then this needs to be self now, unfortunately. All right, and then create shelves. Maybe I'll make that a member variable of the class, but for now that's my only use for it, so I'll just put it here. Self dot create frame, self dot create shelves, num shelves. Cool. Rerun it one more time to make sure everything's still good. Still good. All right. We're not using the USD geom yet. I think I haven't decided. I think I'm going to leave off the backboard for now. We all get the idea. I think we can move on to the point instancer. How are we doing on time? 30 minutes. I think that's enough to get started. So we need to create a reference to. Well, we'll do that later. Create books. Okay. So this is going to use USD geom point instancer. We're going to define it, and then we need to create a proto indices attribute, which is all going to be the same. This is, I guess we can talk about this stuff a little bit. So a point instancer takes a list of prototypes, which are just templates of what you want to scatter, what you want to put on certain points, and then it also has a list of positions of points where to put them, as well as their orientations and scales, so you can move that all around. And this proto indices attribute tells it which of the prototypes to use for each point. So in this case, we're just going to use one book for now, so that'll all just be zeros. And then you can also do IDs to identify all of your points in case you need to know exactly which book is, if you want to select a book or turn one off, you want to know exactly which book you're talking about. So let's try this. Let's see if we can pull this off. So all of this is that I'm doing is unplanned. It is live coding. So apologies for the errors and bugs that I encounter. But I think it is helpful to see somebody working with all the bugs and figuring out the workarounds and all that. USD geom point instancer dot define, and here we can use our handy dandy get next path. Okay. And then we need to give it, this is a real world warts and all. We're going to pass it our stage. If we look at the define documentation, the doc strings aren't working there. But I'm pretty sure it's stage and then the path where you want to put this. So we can lighten this a little bit by just not generating that for now. And we'll do create books. So if I did this correctly, I didn't give it a name, did I? Books instancer. Blah, blah, blah. I think that looks good. Save it. Rerun it. Cool. So I got a point instancer. Lovely. Don't be alarmed. I did comment out the frame and the shelves, so nothing's broken. So we have that going, and my idea currently is to create an instancer per shelf. Might be inefficient. I'm not entirely sure, but maybe I mean what it is it's slightly lazy. I can position all the books in an array and then point instancer. I thought it has I thought it was transformable. If it's not, we can always. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. If we look at the inheritance diagram, we can see here that it does inherit from transformable. So I can add a transform ops to then just move the instancer, and all the books will go with it. So that's my current plan. We may just end up doing just one instancer and putting all the points correctly, but in the end, but let's go with this plan. So we have that. We should create a reference to the book. Well, we already have a reference, so let's just use that for now. Then we'll deal with the reference later. What I do need to do is I need to create a prototypes prim. And if I create one, I think I want to do, let's do this, and I think we'll run into the issue that I'm thinking. I'm going to put this also in the geometry scope, and I should be using the geometry scope here. Cool. These lines are getting a little long. What did I do here? That's probably an error. Oh no, that's for the path. This is fine. Prototypes is going to be USD stage, self.stage. There's a override prim command, and that errored out because I saved in the middle of this. There's an override prim function. Basically, what it does is typically when you, if maybe we can open this up and look at it. Typically when you create prims, you use the def, the define specifier, to say, hey, I'm defining a prim here, and it lets the composition engine know that this is a new thing. We need to create it. Alternatively, there's also class. I think that's how you write it, but class is totally different for inheritance purposes. But over tells USD these are overrides on a prim that somebody else is defining, and so USD will take it, and then eventually it'll resolve. It'll find hopefully there's another layer that is defining it, and then it'll apply these overrides on top of that definition. In our case, the reason that I'm doing this is if we look at the prototype, I've used an instancer a few times, and I know that come on. I don't know if I'm going to find this in here. I don't remember where I read it. It might have been in the processing and not processing prototypes. Here it is. So there's a pattern one can deploy for organizing prototypes, such that they will automatically be skipped by basic get children or USD prim range traversals. You can have these types of specifiers on prims. The default traversals skip over prims that are pure overs or classes. So what all of this means is if I define a prototype's prim and then put my book in there, I'm always going to have a book sitting at origin that's being referenced, and I don't want that. I want this the prototypes to be invisible and only be rendered within the point instancer. So this is the mechanism that lets you do that. One option is you put it as a child of the point instancer, and then I don't think it cares whether it's def or over. But in my case, because I'm potentially going to have multiple point instancers referencing prototypes from the same prototypes prim container. I want to put this somewhere outside, and I'm gonna make it appear over, as the documentation calls it, so that it doesn't render. So that's the goal, and that's why I'm using don't save, finish editing, and that's why I'm using this override prim function. So typically you could do this in another USD layer where you're overriding prims that you know are going to be there. In my case, I'm using it so that I can create this pure over prototypes. So here we are. We've got 15 minutes left to do this. I just need to give it a path. So we take my geom scopes path and we append prototypes. And this will get refreshed. Hopefully my window pops back up now that I've fixed my errors. There it is. So now I got a prototypes. You can see here that it's just a delta. So that's good. Delta is the way that we refer to overrides in Omniverse. So here is, and you can also tell that I didn't define it with a particular type. It's just an override. And if you look at a USDA file, overrides don't have types. They'll gather the type from the def, the definition. Cool. So we got that. Now we need to, I guess I do need to create my reference, don't I? Because I need to put it in there. Do I still have the command for the reference that I created? Maybe this needs a search field. No, I've run so many commands that this is not gonna help me. So let me clear that. Another thing that I need to solve here is I need to put all this stuff into a command group, because this is going to be a problem with all this undo history. So here's the reference. And select that. Paste that there. I don't need this stuff. And technically, I'm going to move this out of here, right? Because I only need to make one of these at the beginning, basically. Okay, my books path. I know Funky Boy is likely gone, and this is what he wanted to get at. But I'll show him. I'll show him the way later. So this is just a file path. I need to convert that into a string because it's a path object, pathlib path object. USD context, I don't think I need that. I think it'll use the default one. And we can put that down there. And I want this to go into, did I save this somewhere? No. I want this to go into look at this one. This one wants an SDF path. That's interesting. Or at least it accepts it. Just writing another note for myself. All right. We're good here. Yeah, I need to build this path. Self.geomScope path dot append path, and here I'm going to name this one prototypes. And that's the asset path, and all that looks good. So save that, and not quite, right? Did I get an error? Let's clear this out. I did get an error. Oops. Actually, that's not bad. It didn't go in. Something happened here. Oh, look at that. It does require a USD context. No problem. USD underscore context is equal to omni.usd.get context. Cool. Clear that. All right. So, well, I named that incorrectly. So I have prototypes. What I need, I think this returns the prim, so I can do dot get path, append path, and we're going to call this, I need to get the, it doesn't matter. I'm only creating one. Book A. It didn't put it under prototypes. That's interesting. All right, let's try this. There it is. Okay. So this isn't my first rodeo, and this looks correct, right? Oh, but look, this is still rendering, and it should be invisible. And like I said, this isn't my first rodeo. I've used point instancers before. There's this thing where if you define inside of over, it then flips it into a define. So this, I expected it to be over. And I wonder if I save this. Hey, look at that. So it automatically updated here, and it went invisible. So that's what we're after. So let's put that back to how it was, and we're going to finish editing here. And if you haven't, it's a little buggy. Sometimes it doesn't finish correctly, and it might be because I haven't saved this stage yet. I'm not sure. I haven't tracked down that bug yet. But if you haven't seen this yet, you can select any layer and edit, and you can also do it in a USD for any USD file in the content browser. There's an extension here called USDA editor, and that's what enables that menu item. So that's how I'm opening it up and checking it out. So so there's that. I think that's expected behavior. For I think it makes sense that if you have a def inside of an over, it should become a def. So I haven't. So what I've been doing to work around that is this create command is going to create it as a def, obviously. But what I can do is, this is the prim. Let's and then if you need type hinting, some of these functions we don't have full type hinting on all of our on all of the USD API, but if you, I think it's USD.prim, if you add in the type hinting on the return on the values that you store, then you get the auto completion again. So I can set the specifier here, and I think there's like a token or something. This is probably not going to work, but it's maybe wishful thinking, but let's try it. That didn't work right. So you can, I'm forcing the specifier back to over in this case. I'm gonna have to look this up, I think. 5 minutes left. I think if we can finish this, that would be amazing. I think that would be a really great place to stop. So USD prim and set specifier. It wants an SDF specifier object, and that's probably going to have a it's going to look something like that. So minimize that. SDF specify. Oh, and it's just like this. Sweet. All right, so run it again. There we go. I don't know what happened here. Oh, this is the book. This is the reference. Okay, good. That threw me off. Cool. So this is wrong, though. This shouldn't be in prototypes. What did I do wrong there? That's interesting. Prototypes, override, prototypes. This value didn't change, did it? Let's debug this. World geometry. Book instancer. That's interesting. I don't think we'll have time to look at what happened here, but it threw the book instancer under prototypes. No, it didn't. Just kidding. That's confusing. Yeah, okay, we're good. All right. Weird UI. Cool. So that's 2 minutes. 2 minutes left. I can try to answer any quick questions. I'm pretty happy where we got to today. Much better than part one for sure. What'll be next is now that we have this instancer defined, we just need to set the attributes on it. So if we look over here, we have the positions, proto IDs. We just need to fill those in, and we also need to figure out the width of the book so that we can space out these books, put the point positions correctly. So that's it for today. Any last questions? I'll wait here. I know there's a little delay on the stream. Okay, so same time next week, 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm trying a new time. I was doing these at 2 p.m. Eastern, but I think this is gonna be better because it's less likely to conflict with some meeting that I might have during the day. So yeah, and it's better time for our friends in Europe. Hopefully you guys can appreciate that, and then our West Coast friends will have to wake up a little earlier if they want to join in. Otherwise, just catch the recording. But yeah, thanks for joining, and looking forward to continuing with this next week. See you.